Good morning and welcome to our first meeting of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Commerce and Labor. Secretary, will you please take roll?
Senator Ellison,
Present.
Senator Flores,
Present.
Senator Pazina, Senator Steinbeck, Assemblymember Miller, Assemblymember O'Neill, Assemblymember Roth,
Present.
Chair Marzola.
And I am here. Please mark all committee members present. At this time, I would like to take a few minutes to allow all our members to introduce themselves. Please include the district that you represent, as well as how many times you've served in the Commerce and Labor Committee in regular session, as well as interim sessions. We will start with my Vice Chair, Senator Pazina.
Thank you so much, Chair. My name is Julie Pazina, and I represent Senate District 12, which is West Henderson, Silverado Ranch, Green Valley, Seven Hills. And I'm so happy to be serving as Vice Chair here in the interim. I was Chair of the Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor last session. I served in my first, in 2023, regular session as a member of Commerce and Labor, and this is my first time on the interim committee other than as an alternate. And I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Senator Flores.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have had the privilege, I represent Senate District 2, and I've had the privilege of serving on the Commerce and Labor Committee during regular session twice, and this is the first time during an interim. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next, we'll go to Assemblymember Miller.
Thank you, Chair. I am Assemblywoman Brittany Miller. I represent Assembly District 5 in the west area of Summerlin Lakes area of Las Vegas, and this is my first session that I did regular session on Commerce and Labor, and also my first interim.
Sorry, I'm fighting with my microphone. Senator Steinbeck.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, John Steinbeck. I was freshman, so last session was my first time serving on this committee, and this is my first interim as well. I'm in Senate District 18, which is out in the far northwest Centennial Hills.
We will now move to Carson. Assemblymember Roth.
Good morning. Erica Roth, represent Assembly District 24 in the heart of Reno. Was very privileged to serve on the Commerce and Labor Committee in the regular session, and this is my first time serving in the interim.
Thank you. Assemblymember O'Neill.
Thank you. PK O'Neill, Assembly District 40, which includes all of Carson, all of Story County, and the east side of Washoe County. I've done 4 terms in Commerce and Labor during regular sessions, and this is my 4th term during the interim session with Commerce and Labor. So I'm looking forward to us getting to work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Senator Ellison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did serve a couple terms in the Assembly when I was in the Assembly, and I enjoyed it a lot. But they moved it to Friday. It made it a little hard on me to get home on Friday night. So I enjoyed this last session in Commerce and Labor. It was and Government Affairs both. And they both chairs did a great job. I thought they did a wonderful job as chairmanship. But my district runs from the Idaho border to the Utah border, the Idaho border, Utah border, all the way to California. So I've got a lot of Vegas and all the way up the state. So I either have to buy a new truck every year or figure a way to get faster. But thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm Assemblymember Elaine Marzola. I represent Assembly District 21. I have served in Commerce and Labor for all 3 sessions that I've been elected. I've served in the interim Commerce and Labor This will be my third time, and I have served as chair twice. By far, I believe it is the best and most fun committee. Some of us will agree to disagree. And with that, I would now like to introduce our LCB staff. We will start with Kelly Lower and Patrick Ashton, who are the committee policy analysts. We have Sam Quest, Jeff, I don't want to butcher this, so I'm sorry if I do, Jeff Koulamé and Christopher Prost, who are our legal counsel. J. Marie Mongoba is our fiscal analyst, and Melissa Jimenez is our committee secretary. Hopefully I did not miss anyone. Before we get started, I do have a few housekeeping announcements. First, I would like to remind everyone to please silence all of your electronic devices, especially your cell phones. This committee has been approved to meet 6 times during the interim, and Las Vegas will serve as our primary meeting location. Carson City will appear by video conference. The committee materials can be found on the Nevada Legislature's website. If you wish to testify in person, please remember to sign in by the door and leave a business card. We will have public comment period at both the beginning of our meeting and also at the end. Please remember that public comment is limited to 2 minutes per speaker. In addition to testifying in person, the public may provide public comment in several different ways, all of which is listed on our agenda. And with that, we will get started. Is there anyone in Carson City who wishes to provide public comment? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Carson City who wishes? Oh. Okay, let's start over. Is there anyone in Las Vegas who wishes to provide public comment? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Carson City? I don't see anyone. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Thank you, Chair. The public line is open and working. However, there are no callers to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you. Just as a reminder, we will have public comment once again at the end of our meeting. So we will move to our next agenda item. Today, Kelly Lower from our research division of the Legislative Council Bureau will provide an overview of the committee's duties and responsibilities this interim. Ms. Lower, you may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Kelly Lower, Senior Policy Analyst, LCB. I'm happy to be here and serve as the lead policy analyst for the committee this interim. As nonpartisan staff, I can neither support nor oppose any items before the committee. My role is to assist the committee as a whole and each of you as individual legislators, while also providing policy and research assistance to help you make informed decisions regarding the issues reviewed and studied by the committee. In front of you or on the legislative website, you'll find the committee brief. This provides a general overview of the committee, including the committee's jurisdiction, which is on page 1, which includes a wide range of issues affecting financial institutions, insurance matters, labor and industrial relations, manufactured housing, business, occupations and professions, trade regulations and practices. Pages 1 and 2 also detail the committee membership and staffing services. At the bottom of page 2, you'll find the powers and duties of the committee. The committee may request up to 10 bill draft requests, or BDRs, for consideration in the 2027 legislative session. On page 3 now, you'll see past committee action, which includes a link to the bulletin for the 2023-2024 interim, which provides a summary of the committee's work. And lastly, on page 3 is a list of priority issues of study for this interim, which includes but is not limited to the regulation of occupations and professions, insurance matters, general business, employment, financial and trade practices, labor and unemployment, and residential property. And with that, Chair, I stand for any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Committee members, do you have any questions? I don't see any. Thank you. As we previously noted, this committee will hold 6 meetings during this interim period. During these meetings, we'll explore various topics relating to this committee's jurisdiction. I would like to ask the members now, are there any specific topics that you would like to discuss in any future meetings? We'll start here in Las Vegas. Vice Chair.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I'd love to discuss housing affordability as we move forward.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? We'll go to Carson City. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to provide any specific topics that you would like to hear during the interim in commerce?
Chair, we don't have any additional comments from Carson City. Thank you.
Thank you. As for me, I agree with Vice Chair Pazina. I would like to hear specific topics on affordable housing, but also prescription drugs, healthcare pricing, and really anything that relates to our healthcare and how we can get additional help in our state when it comes to providers. And with that, we will move to our first presentation. We will hear from the Department of Business and Industry, Director Sanchez. Good morning. Thank you for being here with us this morning. You may begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for having us here today. Special privilege being up first in the first committee hearing. Is here everything's okay? Okay. So we have a lot of folks that are testifying today, but we will move through our presentation quite quickly. It's important for me that everyone's able to put a face with a name. We have a business and industry, as you'll hear from us and have heard from us in the regular sessions. It's a large agency, pretty complex, and our administrators are the true experts in Nevada in the areas in which they specialize in. And I want to make sure that you're able to meet them if you haven't, put a face with a name when an issue comes up, and know that they are available. With that, I'll move on to the first slide, slide 2. I can't see where we are. There we go. Perfect. Okay, good. So slide 2, business and industry by the numbers. We have 12 divisions, plus the director's office. You'll hear from our administrators today, all but one of them. Sandy O'Laughlin from our financial institutions division actually is attending a meeting for the Fed, so she is not going to be here today, but everybody else will be. We have 61 commissions, boards, and advisory committees, including 34 Title IV occupational licensing boards, approximately 826 employees, and we have a breakdown of our budget that we've included in the pie charts. I think the takeaway from that is that we're only 1.83% funded by the general fund. Our revenue that comes into business and industry is through a mixture of fees and some highway funds if it's in TA, and some federal funding in a couple of our agencies, which you'll learn more about here as we move through the presentation. Slide 3 is director's priorities. I've been in my role now for 2 years. There's a number of initiatives that I set out on very early, which were modernizing the agency, making sure that we were staffed appropriately, making sure that we had trained our staff and that they had the resources to be successful. My priorities as we head into 2026 are building on that foundation that we sought to build over the last 2 years. One is that we want to enhance agency regulatory knowledge of emerging technologies. All of you know that technology is growing rapidly. Unfortunately, as regulating agencies, we don't always keep up. A good example with that is the Financial Institutions Division with blockchain and Bitcoin, excuse me, think about the term, Bitcoin. We do not have any specialists on blockchain or Bitcoin in the FID. We are not competitive in salaries for those positions. In fact, we're not even in the ballpark, not even on the field or in the ballpark. That makes it challenging. We will have, as we get into future budget builds and such, we'll try to address that. But it's a good example of what we face as a regulating agencies is that, technology is growing rapidly. Our customers, our constituents expect that we're able to respond quickly, that we have the technology that we need to do the job. And so we're looking at that both in the regulatory landscape as well as in the service delivery landscape and making sure that we serve Nevadans. I should mention that we licensed 650,000 Nevadans. We have interactions with almost a third of the population of Nevada, the Department of Business and Industry. So we are serving a large swath of all of our constituents here through business and industry and the services that we provide. And that's the second bullet point there, provide timely and accurate customer service. We really are building a customer service focused mindset at business and industry, making sure that the processes that we have internally reflect good service delivery. Often processes internally are designed to ensure ease for staff, but not necessarily ease for our constituents. And so we're trying to balance that out. And where we can apply new technology and new processes and procedures to enhance that, we are doing so. We are working on reducing staff vacancies, and I want to thank the legislature for their investment in business and industry. We had asked for a in-house HR unit. It's a small unit of 3 staff, but we have hired those folks, and we are working with DHRM on a transition. We had also asked for consolidated IT and some support in building on the IT footprint that we had, if you will, in the agency. We've been able to do that, and we're still working on staffing. As you know, with the cyber attack and then waiting through October, just a standard process for hiring, we're a bit behind. I think we have about 85 or so positions available right now. It is a priority of all of our agencies to get those positions filled. We do have some hurdles, as I mentioned, in a few respects with some of the salaries and being able to attract talent because we're so far under market. But those are more structural issues that we have to fix. We've identified those and we will be addressing those. Fourth bullet point, enhanced division leadership, accountability, and staff development. And you've heard me say this before in previous committee hearings, but our most important asset is our staff, and we've got to invest in them and their future. And we have to ensure that they've got the training that they need, the technology that they need. You know, we have 850 some odd Nevadans that get up every day wanting to serve their fellow constituents and citizens here in the state. So we want to make sure that they're successful. And we are investing in leadership training and helping people do their jobs well. Enhance operational excellence and utilization of data analytics. So where we can apply data to make decisions within business and industry, we're doing so. Often what we have found is we're not capturing data or the right data to make those informed decisions, and so we are remedying that. We're doing an analysis across the entire agency of the systems that we have and ensure that if we need to invest in new systems that will help us capture data that is applicable to decision making, we do so. And then that's going to take some time. That is a process that we are working through. Often in some of our agencies, we just did not have enough that we were capturing to inform how we respond to our constituents and provide the service that I had mentioned earlier. And then new technology implementation. And that is an ongoing process as we kind of, and all these things, if you see in the priority list here, are kind of interrelated at this point. But we want to make sure that we're acquiring the best technology that we can and applying that across the agency to help us do our job most effectively. On slide 4, because the agency is complex and we have a lot of different responsibilities and subdivisions and agencies, I think this slide best articulates kind of the 4 buckets, if you will, that the agency touches. Commerce and capital regulation, community development, labor and workforce protection, consumer protection, and advocacy. And you're going to hear from representatives from each one of these bullet points today as we work through the presentation. And so I'm going to turn it over to our Chief of Staff, Amanda Flocchini, and I believe she is up north.
Good morning, Chair Marzola and members of the Joint Interim Committee on Commerce and Labor. For the record, my name is Perry Fagan, and I am the Deputy Director with the Department of Business and Industry Director's Office here in Carson City. The Director's Office provides centralized leadership and statewide support services across the department. In this budget cycle, in this last budget cycle, we requested critical staffing capacity to stabilize our operations and modernize administrative support. As the Director indicated, at this time, 1 of 2 public information officer positions were approved. As of November, that position was hired. 3 of the 6 human resources positions were approved, and all of those were hired in the last 60 days. 4 information technology positions were approved and are currently being recruited for, currently with 1 IT manager that was hired as of the end of December. This is to give you kind of an update on what happened after last session. So as you can see, there's been a lot of work being done. Not listed here also were approved for a management analyst 2 and 2 accounting assistants. And that's within the director's office specifically, not as part of the rest of the divisions.
I'm actually Amanda Flokini for the record. Good morning, members of the committee and chair. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of this past session and some outcomes that the department was successful in getting passed and had a lot of touch points as far as legislation goes. So notable legislation that was passed this last session includes AB 376, which directs the insurance commissioner to establish a regulatory sandbox, which allows insurers to pilot innovative insurance products under controlled conditions. SB 317, which our Division of Industrial Relations had quite a bit of input on, which delivers comprehensive workers' compensation and industrial insurance reform. This helped modernize claim administration, premium calculations, and hearing procedures. In addition to that, the legislature also approved 30 new FTE positions, 18 which were dedicated to OSHA, to strengthen enforcement, workplace safety, and system oversight. SB 44 actually was a mortgage lending division related bill, which modernized Nevada's financial services laws, expanded duties for mortgage servicers and other providers related to data protection, operational controls, and risk management. Through the housing division, AB 540, which was a pretty substantial piece of legislation for housing reform in the state, it established the Nevada Attainable Housing Account and Council, providing funding and bonding authority to support housing development. It updated affordable housing definitions, streamlined permitting processes, and improved coordination across state and local governments to expand access to attainable housing statewide. AB 38 was also a housing initiative, updated regulatory standards for manufactured and factory-built housing. AB 502, which touched our labor commissioner, or the Office of the Labor Commissioner, it strengthens public works compliance and enforcement by expanding contractor reporting requirements, increasing penalties for violations, and revises apprenticeship timelines, and also created a dedicated public works compliance division within the Office of the Labor Commissioner to improve investigations and accountability. Collectively, these measures modernized outdated statutes, enhanced consumer and worker protections, and equipped state regulators with the tools and staffing needed to ensure fair and efficient and transparent oversight across critical sectors of Nevada's economy. Lastly, I'll conclude with this past session, the Department of Business and Industry, for the first time I think ever, distributed a post-legislative survey to all legislators in late July of 2025 to gather feedback on the department's interactions with the legislature, including what worked well, what did not, and how collaboration can be improved in future sessions. To date, unfortunately, only 3 responses have been received. Although, with that being said, the department would be happy to resend the survey, as we as a department remain committed to working closely with the legislature to better serve Nevada's constituents. And with that, I will hand it over to our Deputy Director again.
For the record again, my name is Perry Fagan, and I am the Deputy Director with the Department of Business and Industry. This is a bit of an overview with regard to the Director's Office. These resources support the core sections within the Director's Office: Administration, Fiscal, Human Resources, and Information Technology, as well as several program areas including the Office of Business Finance Planning, the Office of Nevada Boards, Commissions, and Councils, Nevada Consumer Affairs, and the Ombudsman of Consumer Affairs for Minorities, and the Commission on Minority Affairs. Our key functions include centralized administrative services such as fiscal management, budgeting, collections, payroll, HR, and IT support, while also supporting important statewide initiatives such as small business advocacy, the administration of private activity bond programs, oversight of the new Nevada New Market Tax Credit Program, and critical consumer protection and enforcement of deceptive trade practices, along with minority advocacy and outreach. And with that, I'll turn it over to Deputy Director Haig.
Thank you. My name is Nikki Haig. I am the Deputy Director over the Office of Nevada Boards, Commissions, and Council Standards. So first I'd like to say that we did hire the MA2 position that was funded during the special session. That position has been filled. The employees started earlier this month. So thank you all. It's been great having somebody on board with me in helping set this office up. The purpose of the office was established to provide statewide consistency, guidance, and support. Our goal is to serve as a resource and help build a stronger, more sustainable future for Nevada's Title 54 occupational boards and commissions. We also support the public by helping connect constituents with boards, facilitating timely responses to concerns, and promoting transparency and accountability across the system. At its core, this office exists to help build a stronger, more sustainable future for Nevada's Title 54 occupational and licensing system. We assist boards in navigating statutory requirements, strengthening operations, and implementing consistent standards so boards feel supported and well-equipped to succeed. This office is essential in long-term stability and the success of the Title 54 system. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. Thank you for having me. For the record, my name is Ned Gaines. I am the Commissioner of Insurance with the Division of Insurance. And I'm going to give you an overview today of what we do at the division. So the purpose of the division is to protect consumers and ensure the solvency of insurers through the regulation of insurance companies, captive insurers, insurance agents, adjusters, bail bonds, funeral homes, excuse me, and self-insured workers' comp. We oversee all lines of insurance, including health, life, property casualty, title, auto, and homeowners. Insurers in Nevada write approximately $25 billion in annual premiums, and this has increased by about 91% over the last 10 years. Key functions are to monitor and ensure the solvency of carriers to ensure the companies doing business in Nevada can make good on the promises made to their consumers. We are the primary regulator for all companies that are based in Nevada to ensure that they remain solvent. We promote compliance to provide an adequate and competitive market and ensure Nevada consumers are treated fairly. We also license insurance companies and producers and adjusters and provide education to those individuals as they interact with the consumers in the Nevada insurance market. And then finally, we have consumer protection and fraud investigation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, moving on to Division of Industrial Relations. I'm Victoria Carrion. For the record, I'm the administrator of the division. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee for having us here today. So our division is responsible for all aspects of workplace safety. So I like to say that we work together to put safety and health first in Nevada. And it's a whole continuum of workplace safety activities, starting with prevention, enforcement, and assisting injured workers. So on the prevention side, we have our safety consultation and training section, which is responsible for providing a whole cadre of safety training classes, and they also provide in-person consultations with employers to help them improve their safety programs. SCATS was instrumental in this past year in providing training regarding our new heat illness regulation that was implemented this past summer. So also on prevention, we have our mine safety and training section, which kind of has a combination of both enforcement and prevention activities, but they are responsible for also providing training to miners, both new miners and regular renewal training for miners. And then they also provide consultations to mine companies, but they're also responsible for inspecting every mine once per year. So they do that, but they do not have the authority to actually issue any citations, but anything that they find must be corrected. On the enforcement side, we do have Nevada OSHA. So Nevada is a state plan, meaning that the federal government has given us the authority to run the OSHA program on behalf of the federal government. So OSHA was very busy this past summer doing implementation of our new heat regulation. So happy to let you know that we did do a total of 189 inspections and we had 19 total citations. So it was really good to see actually that we had a lot of compliance out in the field and that a lot of our outreach efforts had been successful. Also then we have our mechanical compliance section, which is responsible for the enforcement of the safety rules relating to elevators, boilers, and pressure vessels. And then our last group that we have is our workers' compensation section. And so that section is responsible for the injured worker side of things. So that's on the last side of our continuum. So unlike in the past, we do not actually run the workers' compensation system, but we are responsible for regulating it and making sure that all of the employers, insurers, and third-party administrators are following all of the laws. So we make sure that employers all have workers' compensation coverage, because if they don't and you have an injured worker, it can be quite expensive. And the other thing we do is we make sure that injured workers are receiving the benefits they are entitled to on a timely basis and accurately. So that's a summary of our division. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Vice Chair Pazina has a question for you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. We all worked together, you probably recalled, on SB 376 during the regular session. And we worked really with first responders on that bill to address the severe shortage at the time, really, of cardiologists and pulmonologists available to treat firefighters and police officers, our first responders, with occupational heart and lung disease. The list of the challenges, the list from the Division of Industrial Relations of doctors who can treat is challenging. And really the list is only as good as, you know, people who can get the treatment and can actually get into those doctors. When it comes to ENTs in some other areas, there's maybe only one available, and it's in Southern Nevada. So for our first responders in Northern Nevada, in our rurals, it becomes a lot more challenging. So I guess my question is, because of the lack of doctors who can treat right now, what is the Division of Industrial Relations doing to add more doctors to that list? And thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for the question. So we are auditing our list of treating physicians on a monthly basis with a special emphasis on the cardiologists and pulmonologists. So we're trying to make sure that our list is as up to date as possible. We have done some outreach specifically to try to encourage additional doctors to become part of the list, but that is something that they elect to do. So that is one of the challenges. We do have a new chief of our medical unit that just started this week, actually, and so that's going to be one of her major functions, is to try to continue to recruit doctors to be part of the list. But thank you so much for the question.
Thank you so much. And just to follow up right now, from an endocrinology standpoint, there are 2 doctors in Henderson, 1 in Las Vegas, and there's only 1 ENT in the entire state and located in Las Vegas. So those are areas I would advise that they really focus on, and I'd love to be involved in those conversations as they go forward so we can ensure that our first responders are being taken care of. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up to that, and I don't even know if this is feasible. So for the specialists that we know we don't have a lot of in Nevada, why not open that list? Why not have the claimants go to the doctors of their choosing? And if they are able to do that now, are they? I guess let me ask that question first.
Thank you for the question. So right now they have to be on the insurer. Okay, so the Division of Industrial Relations maintains the master treating panel for the entire state, and then each insurer picks doctors from that panel. So yes, currently you have to actually pick a doctor from the panel, and that is the way the law reads. However, there is an exception for the heart and lung that was put into place through SB 376 for first responders. So there is an exception there, but otherwise they do have to go to one of the doctors on the panel.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the issue, right? When we only have 1 or 2 in the entire state and we have claimants needing treatment and they're not able to get it because of this master list that you have, maybe we can even talk offline and see if there's a way that, you know, we can change the law in this aspect. Any other questions? Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To follow up on that, what are you finding the biggest barrier for doctors agreeing to be on the list?
Thank you for the question. Victoria Carrion for the record. So the doctors have to agree to abide by the medical fee schedule, and that is set on an annual basis. We adjust the medical fee schedule. We did get, as part of the last legislative session, authority to do a contract for reviewing the medical fee schedule, and that contract just got approved, so we will be conducting a thorough review of that. And so with that, we'll be able to make adjustments, and perhaps through that, we may be able to encourage additional doctors to agree to those rates.
Follow up, Chair. Thank you. Okay, and that's what I've heard as well, but I've also heard that many times it's also some of the bureaucracy that the doctors have to go through to get paid and to get those benefits back. Are you finding any of those issues being reported?
Thank you for the question, Victoria Carrion, for the record. So we do have an ability to take complaints from doctors who aren't being paid and are having trouble getting through the system. And we do have investigators. We have 2 investigators in our medical unit that review those complaints and can resolve them. So if you know of people who need assistance, we'd be happy to help.
Yeah. So I mean, what I've heard is just like, it's just so difficult that they choose to just go through take patients from outside of that system. So are there ways we can streamline that?
Victoria Carrion, for the record, we'd be happy to look into ways and discuss that with you.
Senator Flores.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Administrator, good morning. Thank you for being here. I know during the session, this previous session, we were discussing air quality, and I know that there was going to be working groups. I just wondering if you've been involved, how engaged you've been, and how do you think they're going?
Thank you for the question, Victoria Carrion, for the record. So that was SB 260 and regarding wildfire smoke. So we have engaged with stakeholders widely in that to discuss what regulations could look like to implement that legislation. And we have a draft based on all of that input that is currently out for a small business impact survey. So once we have the results of that, we will be scheduling a workshop on it and moving forward with those regulations.
And Madam Chair, if I may have a quick follow-up, and how do you think the conversations have been going? Do you feel that it sounds like everybody's found the middle ground and it's moving in the direction where it seems somewhat amicable?
Victoria Carrion, for the record, I think that there has been a lot of concern regarding how to measure air quality, especially in rural areas and where there are not sensors, and having the accuracy and timeliness of data in order to be able to make real-time decisions about providing adequate protection for workers and when to actually stop activities due to the air quality. So that has, I think, been an enduring challenge for people. So that's one of the main concerns, I think.
Thank you.
Any questions in Carson City?
No questions in Carson City, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to continue with your presentation?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Marcel Scherer. I am the Deputy Director of the department here based in Las Vegas. I'm representing Commissioner Sandy O'Laughlin and Deputy Commissioner Mary Yan. As the director mentioned, they are in San Francisco to meet with the FDIC regional office. The Nevada Financial Institutions Division safeguards the state financial system. The primary purposes are, as you can see there, to sustain a safe, sound, and compliant financial environment, to protect Nevadans, and to promote economic development in a progressive, proactive, and service-oriented manner. Also, it regulates depository institutions, non-depository businesses, and fiduciary institutions, including, but not limited to, the following: banks, credit unions, trade companies, payday, title lenders, money transmitters, student loan services, collection agencies, installment lenders, and retail and family trust companies. Key functions to achieve its mission is to conduct annual examinations. The division investigates unlicensed activity, possible violations, and take disciplinary action arising from complaints filed with the divisions. It also recruits and encourages proposals of new institutions and facilitates establishment of fast-growing retail and family trust company market that brings skilled professional jobs to our state. And that is the overview of financial institutions.
Good morning, Chair Marzola and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Marisu Romualdez Abellar. Excuse me. I'm the Commissioner of the Government Employee Management Relations Board, or as it's known around these parts, the EMRB. Thank you for the chance to be here and give a quick snapshot of what we do. The EMRB is made up of 5 members appointed by the governor, and on the administrative side, it's just me and 2 full-time staff. So we are the smallest agency in the state. Even though we're small, our work has a statewide impact. The EMRB serves as a quasi-judicial function. We are the neutral forum for public sector labor disputes when the grievance process or other bargained for process is not successful. In simple terms, we resolve labor disputes, decide representation issues, provide guidance when the parties ask for it, and try to settle matters early whenever we can. As a resource for our stakeholders, we also make collective bargaining agreements, directories of neutrals, orders, and other resources available on our website. Our jurisdiction extends across the state of Nevada Executive Department, 5 state labor organizations representing 12 of 15 approved bargaining units, 215 local governments, and 162 local government employee organizations. In total, approximately 18,000 state government employees, which includes NSHE, and 93,000 local government employees. Our jurisdiction, the local governments that we represent or are under our jurisdiction across the state include cities, counties, school districts, public state safety agencies, and various other general hospital improvement districts and their employees. I'll close by saying that while we are small, the role we play is important, and we take that responsibility seriously. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions from the committee.
Thank you for your presentation. Committee members, any questions?
Thank you.
Committee members in Carson City, do you have any questions?
No questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a quick question. Got up way too fast.
Tried to get away.
How many disputes do you get a year?
So that, for the record, my name is Marisu Romualdez Abellar. That varies from year to year. We had a high of 45 cases to 55 cases. During COVID, of course, it went down substantially. Last year, the number of cases we had was, I think the total was 26. However, in between those 26 cases, we have from the previous cases from the prior year, it's still rolling over from year to year. So we, for last year, I think we had maybe 6 cases that actually went to a hearing. Some of them were settled prior to the hearing. Some of them were the parties that settled, and the cases were dismissed.
Thank you for that information. Do you keep data of the outcomes? A number for the claimants, for the employer, or cases that are just outright dismissed?
We do not, but we can certainly, if the committee will want that information, we can certainly provide it.
I would like to see those numbers if you
Absolutely.
can provide it to the committee secretary, and I'll make sure to pass it to all committee members.
How many years prior do you want it?
Let's do the last 5 years.
Last 5 years, okay. And just to clarify, Chair Marzola, you want the data from how many cases were filed by employers and how many cases were filed by individuals or employee organizations?
Correct.
All right.
And their outcomes.
And their outcomes, okay.
Correct. I want to see what percentage fines for the claimant, for the employer, or it's just, again, outright dismissed.
Absolutely, I can provide that.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Chair,
Yes.
PK O'Neill up north.
You
May
have a
I
question?
ask for you to include in that request the dates of when the cases were filed and then the date of when they were resolved, so we can assess how long it takes to process them, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Assemblymember O'Neill. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I don't believe we have any additional questions for you.
Thank you. I will stand up.
Who do we have next? You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, Interim Standing Committee of Commerce and Labor and Chair Marzola. My name is Kathy Sheehy Wilkin now. I am the Commissioner for the Mortgage Lending Division. The purpose of the Mortgage Lending Division is to implement and administer the licensing and regulatory programs primarily related to the non-depository mortgage lending activity. When we say non-depository institution, those are institutions that do not accept deposits or fund activities with demand deposits of customers such as checking or savings accounts. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see that we regulate escrow agencies and escrow agents that work for the agencies. We have mortgage companies and the mortgage loan originators that work for the mortgage companies. We have mortgage servicers, covered service providers, and for registration only, the credit service organizations. Key functions that we perform are company and individual occupational licensing, periodic examinations of the licensees, books and records. We investigate consumer complaints and findings of examinations, and we administer administrative law enforcement and civil adjudication if applicable. Available for any questions.
We don't have any questions, but let me check before you get up. In Garson City, do you guys have any questions?
No questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for having us here. My name is Maria Atkinson. I'm the administrator for Nevada Attorney for Injured Workers. The agency was established originally in 1977. The attorneys in the Office of Nevada Attorney for Injured Workers represent injured workers in the state that are claiming rights, benefits under the Nevada Industrial Insurance Act. The services are provided at no cost to the workers once they reach the second level of appeals through the administrative courts. We also can represent injured workers through the district court process, petition for judicial review, and also from there all the way to the Supreme Court. The agency also has 3 full-time staff in Las Vegas, 2 in Carson City that provide procedural information and advice for injured workers through both levels of appeal if necessary. In the last fiscal 25, we were appointed on 654 cases. Of those, we went to hearing on 644 of those cases. 7 of them were appealed to district court, 3 to the Supreme Court. Happy to say that we won on all of those cases. The decisions and settlement and wins apply to cases that are won at hearing and also cases that are settled on behalf of the injured worker. We also field information calls from the public. In the fiscal 25, we had 1,154 calls that we fielded between the two offices. Thank you.
Do you have a question? Senator?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your presentation. As far as injured workers, back to the heart and lung, I know that from at least at the local level, many of those cases are consistently denied, consistently, and they always seem to have to go to appeal. And then they almost always, at least our experience was, that they consistently win at appeal. Have you found that to be systemic, and do you have any advice on that?
Yes, they are. For the most part, we do not see many of those cases in our agency. They're usually carried by private counsel. But the one that I think of off the top of my head, it was probably from 2014, was a fight all the way, I think, to the Supreme Court, and we were successful in that case for the widow. Unfortunately, the claimant did pass away during that process, but we were successful in providing benefits to the widow and that family. But we're waiting to see how the new changes will affect. But I can tell you those are rare that come through our office because they are usually with private counsel.
Quick follow-up. Thank you. Do you have any advice on how we can improve the process so that so many claims aren't, even if it goes to the private counsel, so many of the claims aren't consistently denied that ultimately are approved?
I think educating the constituents of this state on how to process. We see a lot of the problems are from the very onset of a claim. Unfortunately, in our agency, we see everything at the very end of a claim when they've lost their private counsel, when they don't know where else to turn, and now they're at that second level of appeal and need assistance. So I would say that the majority of the mistakes or things that constituents are unaware of occur at the very beginning of the claim, and that is through education, that is through messages to the injured worker on educating them what they need to do to at least get the footing so that they're not denied as easily. Other than that, I mean, we fight all of those because sometimes they are wrongfully denied. I do agree with that, and it's a very high number.
Yeah, it's tough. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Committee members, any additional questions? Is there any questions in Carson City?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a question. I had an employee that got a light injury, and of course every signs up and down the road says if injured, call, and they do. Well, by the time they got done, and I kept telling them they'd have been better off just listen to the state and offer what the state come up with, which their attorneys tell them not to. When they got done, they probably lost 50% of what they would have got from the state from this injury. And to me, the attorney still walks off with a big set of money and the employee don't. I know there's no way we can fix this, but it seems like to me if the losses are that bad, then there should be a way to go back and you know, appeal that decision or the attorney that they hired. I don't know. It's a goofed up mess with when they're telling these young people, no, you're going to hang out for all this money when they don't get it. The attorneys get most of it.
Yeah.
Can you respond to that, or?
Well, unfortunately, you know, I do.
Can you state your name for the record?
I'm sorry, Maria Atkinson, Nevada Attorney for Injured Workers, for the record. I do see that the process is a slow process, unfortunately, and I don't know what to say about private, but you know that is a business. I do have to emphasize that our agency only gets a part of that pie. Unfortunately, when these workers end up in our offices, where we are appointed by these administrative judges, we only can focus our area of ability to assist them with is only a very small piece of that pie. And it's very frustrating for us too, to see that all of these other factors in that pie of the workers' compensation claim are out flailing and they don't know what to do. And by that point, as I stated, we get it at the end of that road. I have to say that, you know, educating, my role is new. I just started last year, and I can see that there is a huge need to help the constituents of the state of Nevada understand that our services are available. They can get procedural assistance so that they don't create other roadblocks that we will not be able to get past by the time they get to our offices. So education and information out to the public is, I would say, the best thing to inform people. You know, having been in the private practice, you have those ads all over the place with all these promises. You know, I don't know, I think that is for a different department maybe, or maybe, you know, the commission to decide on how to better educate and inform the constituents of the state. But yes, I have to agree with you. It is a very slow and unfortunate process for those workers that end up in our offices after years of battling all these little roadblocks that have been set up for them by the insurers, the TPAs, and all those out there doing business. Yes.
And thank you. And for the record, I believe in private enterprise, but sometimes it goes a little too far. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you answering that question. I know that was a tough one. And I think the work comp system is very complicated. And if we don't have an education piece, right, for Nevadans, I think it makes it even harder. But I do believe that good representation helps our constituents along the way. And so are there any other questions? I don't see any. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Marzola, Vice Chair Pazina, members of the committee, Steve Acroft, Administrator of the Nevada Housing Division. Before I start our presentation, I do want to acknowledge that housing affordability is something that we look forward to engaging with this committee in. As was mentioned in the opening statements, we find that our ability to inform, educate, and collaborate with the legislature has paid huge dividends. You're going to hear about some of that as we go through our presentation. And please know that it is not lost on the division the amount of trust that the legislature has put in to the division in the funding that has been provided post-COVID. And so just sort of with that opening to react to exactly what you were talking about regarding housing affordability, I'll begin our formal presentation. With me today is Christine Hess, our Chief Financial Officer. We also have Doug Smith, our Deputy Administrator, and Adrian Babbitt, our Deputy Administrator, and we have Carenza Espino here in the audience in Carson City, which kind of keeps us all moving in the right direction. So happy to answer questions when we get done with our presentation. We have subject matter experts in the buildings. Our key functions, as indicated by the slide, are homeownership programs, the financing of multifamily developments and preservation of affordable housing. We do weatherization assistance. We administer federal funding that the state receives for housing purposes. We collect collect information to put into a database. And what's not indicated on this sheet is the oversight of manufactured housing. We do the titling for manufactured homes, the licensing, permits, and inspections of the structures in manufactured homes. Our current activities, we have our home is possible down payment assistance program for low and middle income home buyers and essential workers. We, in the last year, closed 11 developments in our multifamily bond program. We are the federal tax credit allocating authority for the development of affordable housing in the state. And that goes through our 9% program and our bond program. That bond program created or preserved over 2,200 affordable apartments, supported generously by the Department of Business and Industry with $425 million in volume cap. We are able to issue tax credits, federal tax credits that are provided to the division for the development, again, of more affordable housing that is more deeply targeted. You'll see that all these funding sources are a little bit limited. Through our weatherization programs, we were able to assist over 400 households. We received roughly about $5 million in HUD. Well, we have about a $5 million HUD award fund balance for activities within affordable housing, including rental assistance and neighborhood stabilization. We have over $7 million annually in awards for state affordable housing trust funds. 2 years ago, well, 2.5 years ago now, the creation of the supportive housing development account was created, which provided 32 million, thank you, initially for supportive housing development, not the development of the sticks and bricks, but for the development of services to assist the sticks and bricks, the residents who live there. That was established permanently in the last biennium with AB 366, with an additional 21 biennium appropriation. Many of you are familiar with the Home Means Nevada initiative. Those were ARPA SLFRF funds provided to the division of $500 million. 71% of that is spent. We know we have an expiration date occurring in about 11 months, and everything is on target to have that completely spent. Also, as was referred to earlier, is the passage of AB 540, the Attainable Housing Act, which appropriated $133 million for the development of attainable housing. The slide shows 49 applications in the review process. That actually is a misnomer. We had 49 pre-applications come in through the division, and then we currently have 43 active applications, and I will turn it over to Christine Hess to provide a little more clarity on where we are there.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Marzola, members of the committee. Christine Hess for the record, Housing Division CFO. Again, thank you so much for the attention, and very much look forward to continued discussions on housing. Relative to the Nevada Attainable Housing Account, which was part of Assembly Bill 540 that passed in this last legislative session, we, as the administrator noted, we are currently in the review process of 43 applications across all 4 categories. So there are 4 subcategories. The appropriation or allocation of funds was actually designated in statute in Assembly Bill 540. So we are working from, I'll call them buckets to help us all visualize it. 4 buckets of funds. There is land, there's new development, there's the local government bucket, and a homeownership bucket. So all 4 of those buckets had awesome activity. All 4 categories have a lot of applicants. The only one that's not oversubscribed is the local government match bucket. Again, that one is also interesting. It's new for the local governments, and it's non-competitive. For the local governments, it is $25 million. They must come in with requests that are matches. And in that case, we based it on population, similar to how volume cap is distributed, and distributed the $25 million across all of the local governments in that manner. We won't change that and go competitive for at least 9 months. The initial instinct, I would say, would be likely in the 2027 allocation plan. So right now we're processing those local government applications. We also have 4 applications in our home ownership program. I do want to note we are currently deploying $18 million as the Nevada Housing Division for our Worker Advantage program. I don't know as of today if we've closed a loan, but we started reserving loans after December 1st. So very exciting. Those funds were really important. The Nevada Housing Division's deploying $18 million. Nevada Rural Housing Authority is deploying $4 million. What's important to know is we were able to kick that off immediately because both the Housing Division and Nevada Rural Housing, this is what we do all day long. So we were able to leverage our existing infrastructure for those programs. We did open up for $3 million of competitive applications. Those are again being reviewed. And again, in the development opportunities, those applications span land, single family development, multifamily development, both non-low-income housing tax credit projects and low-income housing tax credit projects. Super exciting. I can tell you the applications we're reviewing, we are going to be impacting supply and catalyzing the supply that isn't getting built currently, which was one of the main objectives of the task force that helped put forward Assembly Bill 540. I think I could keep going, but I think I'll just stop there. The process, so we're under review. The Nevada Attainable Housing Council, which will be reviewing and providing input to the Nevada Housing Division on our recommendation for funding. They are currently scheduled to meet on February 5th, Thursday. So we anticipate recommendations for the first allocation and awards to come out and be finalized February 5th or February 6th after the review of the council, and if there's any revisions that the Housing Division needs to make.
And that concludes our presentation. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Committee members, any questions? Senator Flores.
Thank you for the presentation. I know a lot of work went into this during the interim previous to session and then during session, so thank you for that. I guess the first thing I'm curious to know, what is the marketing aspect looking like? How are people finding out to apply? How do they know that these programs exist? How do we get that information out to Nevadans?
Steve Acroth for the record. I'm going to assume that you're talking about, at least right now, what we have is the homeownership program. That's done through our Home is Possible network of realtors, lenders. We spread it on social media to the extent that we can. Any times that we have the ability to do media interviews and requests through conventional media sources, we do that. So it really was, as Ms. Hess attested to, it's our existing program. It's an addition to our existing program and our existing network. And that goes statewide and also to Nevada Rural. So that infrastructure, for lack of a better word, already existed. If you're talking about some of the other applications, we did reach out to developers, to local jurisdictions, as we were developing the pre-applications and application process. And so we did have a cross pollination, for lack of a better word, with our existing low-income developers and also people like the Southern Nevada Home Builders, Northern Nevada Home Builders, Apartment Association, just any of those entities that would take that information to their constituents.
And Madam Chair, if I may have a follow-up, thank you for that. And I think, and I appreciate the presentation. I know there was 4 buckets that were discussed, and I think there was 40 plus applicants in one of these buckets. I think we heard 4 in a different one. What happens if an applicant if their application is incomplete for whatever reason? Do they go to the back of the line? Is there a grace period where they can make the necessary corrections? I'm just curious to know what that process looks like.
Thank you, Christine Hess, for the record. Great question, Senator, and I'm about ready to sign you up for our scoring committee. So you are spot on. The process with which we go through, we are currently in a cure process, actually. So applicants were sent follow-up questions as they've been responding and following up with the housing division. We've been reopening their application so that they could cure if they missed something. I will say in particular, this is the first time that we have launched this program. Additionally, by the nature of the project, we are working with new applicants that have never worked with the state, right? We don't typically we don't have single-family home builders coming in with ideas and thoughts in any of our other programs. So I just had a conversation actually with a developer when they questioned why their score was so low, and I said, well, in the narrative section, you put one sentence for your answer. Typically, we would see a few paragraphs. And they said, oh, so more like a college project. And I said, yes. So I opened the application and they're curing. I don't know that they finished yet. I haven't gone back in to look. We're still, like I said, in that cure process. But we do appreciate and recognize, first of all, it's the first time we had this allocation plan, even for our experienced developers. I can tell you, I personally helped drive the application questions, and I could have been more clear in a couple of the questions. I could see that when we got the responses in. I was like, oh, I probably should have asked that differently. So we definitely wanted to provide an opportunity for the applicants to cure, ask us questions as follow-up if we didn't understand something, and for us to ask them questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Assemblymember Miller.
Thank you so much for that response to the senator. But it now piques my curiosity. If you could explain, because again, as you said, there's a difference between individual home buyers and of course, businesses, companies, corporations. Could you maybe give us an example of some of those questions where you felt that the applicants stumbled? And also going back to a previous comment about how we advertise. When I hear things like advertising through realtors and through lenders and such like that, I also appreciate that some people may not get a lender or a realtor until they believe they're actually capable of obtaining a home, a loan, or that down payment assistance. So I don't want us to think that that is a consecutive process, where it may be if people were aware of the program, aware of the possibility of getting this down payment assistance, that they would then go after seeking a realtor, a mortgage lender or such. But could you just give us some examples of what those questions were that applicants stumbled on?
Christine Hess for the record. Thank you so much, Assemblymember Miller. And you're going to hear that I'm a perfectionist, because my critique is when I ask for an org chart and they attach something, I probably should have been more specific in that I was expecting to see key positions or the company's organizational chart. And I say that because in the space that I typically operate in of low-income housing tax credit, when we look at organizational charts, we're often looking at a new entity that has managing members. And so I think that was an opportunity for me to be more clear on what I was asking for. So really more of a technicality and my own personal wanting to be better and serve our applicants and subrecipients better. So that's one example. I would say overall it wasn't glaring. There weren't questions that were important that were not clear. So that was a win through the application process. The application for NAHA that we referenced with the $133 million, that is coming from organizations or entities, companies, nonprofits. The home buyer component, so I'm going to pivot from that to the home buyer component, that goes, as noted, a lot of our education goes to lenders, and the conversation in our single family, our home ownership program team is just really focused on how do we continue to make sure we're reaching the home buyer. To your point, they may not come in the door because they think they're not ready, and so then they'll never learn of our programs if that's our only route. So we do some marketing directly to the home buyers. I will say I am always envious of the marketing work that Nevada Rural Housing does directly to home buyers. I don't know if you all are football fans, but you'll see oftentimes their commercials towards the end of the program. So they actually do television. Which I happen to catch when I'm watching a game. And I'll see the Nevada Rural Housing commercials on television reaching directly out to home buyers. So we do some of that, but our outreach is more on social media. And then also we receive a lot of phone calls to the housing division from prospective home buyers that are curious about our programs. And so we'll let them know about our programs and then direct them to speak with their financial institution, because that's really our partners and who is accessing our programs directly. Hopefully that's helpful, Assembly Member.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I will tell you that I've been contacted several times asking if the down payment assistance is real, because they have been seeing it on social media and also on television. And so whatever you guys are doing is working, and I appreciate it. Any questions in Carson City?
Thank you, Chair. I have a question, and then the Senator has a question as well. My question is in regard to the local government applications. Can you just expand on that program a little bit? And then do you have data on what localities are taking advantage of that?
Sorry, I didn't mean to just jump the gun here. I'm in attainable housing mode. Christine Hess for the record. Sure. So I think what's really important when that program came through the legislative process in Assembly Bill 540, it was very important to the legislators and was originally crafted to be matching funds. There are 3 eligible areas, eligible activity areas for the local governments. I'm not going to have the statute right in front of me, so I'm going to give you my best version of qualifying those. But essentially, eligible activities would be to reimburse local governments for costs they may have assumed when they are waiving fees or taxes for attainable housing projects. So importantly, we're going up to projects that go up to 150% of area median income, which does stretch it further, which I can say actually they were likely not waiving fees and taxes for that before, because Senate Bill 103 in the 2019 session only allowed up to 60% of area median income. So those are some changes. But anyway, they can be reimbursed for up to half of what they spent in those areas, or any other incentives that they may be providing to incentivize and catalyze attainable housing projects. So things that come to mind for me, and I'm not going to go into specifics on the applications that we have in front of us, but things that come to mind to me, some of our local governments have some trust funds that are revenues or general funds that they themselves are putting forward. That would be an eligible type activity that they may come in and say, we spent this much, we'd like to get reimbursed for half. The other one that's interesting is there's another category that basically says any expenses that you've incurred to catalyze again and incentivize attainable housing. So that puts the onus on the local government to provide their supporting documentation. And that's really for us, as I noted, the idea was to have up to 9 months where they have a known amount of money available to them. Because our local governments across the state are doing this work differently, and some maybe are just thinking about it. So we didn't want for those local governments that are doing amazing work in this space to come in and take all the money immediately. That's why we went with an allocation plan by population, and also provided time before we make it competitive so that local governments who are learning about it. I literally just had a question from a local government saying, oh yeah, we didn't apply, but we can still apply, right? And I said, oh yes, we'll be opening up in the spring with a 26 plan, and you'll be able to apply again, and your funds are what your funds are. They're not going to go away until we make it competitive, which I don't anticipate until 2027. Assembly member, is that helpful?
That was helpful, thank you. Do you have a breakdown on the local governments who have taken advantage of it so far?
Steve Acroth, Administrator of the Housing Division. We will get you that information. I think out of the 43 applicants, I believe, if memory serves, 6 of them came from local governments. I know we had applications from Las Vegas, Clark County, Sparks, and Reno, right off the top of my head. We also, the department put on a rural road show where we went out to rural communities, Ely, Winnemucca, Fallon, Tonopah, and explained the program and what they could do. I don't recall seeing any rural applications per se, but as was indicated by Ms. Hess, they will have more time should they want to learn about the program and then develop programs to get those matching funds. But we will get you the list of the jurisdictions that have provided applications to us.
Thank you. And thank you, Chair. We do have one more question up here.
Thank you. I had a call from a constituent asking about mini houses. He's a contractor. I said, I called Las Vegas and they said they'd get back with me and never did. But the woman that answered the phone said, well, let me find out. Somebody call you. But the thing of it is, it's this contractor wanted to know if they could apply for any of these grants for mini homes. I said, I don't know. I'd find out.
Steve Acroft, for the record, the current application process is closed, but this is an annual process. We know that we are not going to allocate the full $133 million in this one shot, so we'll have a chance to perfect it and to extend it to others. Certainly, that individual would have been able to apply for funding if it did work. It's designed for scale. So it's not sort of a one-off, hey, I want to build a house. I think we have provisions in there that we need a development of at least 4 units to be built. So it's not specifically for, a contractor to build an affordable or attainable home. But if they want to develop a quad, or if they want to develop a small development, then certainly it is available to them. Just to follow up, this money obviously was appropriated in the last legislative session, came through. It took us some time to develop the program, to develop the process and the questions. We anticipate opening a round for 2026 in the spring. So this is our first shot at it, and we know that there will be additional funding, not reappropriated, that has already been appropriated for a 26 issuance.
Follow up, ma'am. This looks like this would be a subdivision, kind of a unit, quite a few. And I told them, give me the information, and I talked to you guys about it. So I think it's a great idea, like single family or whatever for something like this that they could get into pretty easy, or rent or whatever they could do to, because some housing markets are real tight right now. So any information you can give me, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, we will make contact with you, Senator, and certainly we want to encourage single-family development, and manufactured structures are one way to do that. That was the whole impetus of the merger. You've been around long enough when we merged manufactured housing with the housing division, and to have something like that come to the fore would be tremendous. So happy to engage.
Thank you.
Any additional questions in Carson City? I don't see any. Senator Steinbeck?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, my question is for the first-time home builders, or home buyers, excuse me. So on the website, we've got a maximum home purchase price of $544,000, just over that, with a maximum household income of $102,000. And so at that price of a home, you're looking at a $3,600 or more monthly payment, but the maximum amount that you're going to qualify for generally at that income level is $2,380. And even at $400,000, you're still going to be up at a $3,000 a month payment. I just wanted to get some information on are these programs successful in bridging these challenges?
Steve Acroth, Administrator for the record. We've had huge, what I would deem success in the program. Our actual average home purchase is, if memory serves, right around $330,000 to $350,000 through our traditional programs. We've gone through, we run currently about a $400 million plus bond program to support home ownership. We've grown tremendously in that space since COVID. So we've always had great success in providing alternatives to conventional financing that you would get through a primary institution with down payment assistance and with the ability to get homeowners into homes. The numbers that you refer to are maximums. Typically, if you're up near those maximums, our programs are not for you. But those are usually guided by FHA regulations and things of that ilk that we typically do not see those types of transactions. And then it's based on geographic for every county on what those home buyer income limits are and what the purchase price limits are. But that comes from the federal government. So those are our guidelines for establishing those programs.
Quick follow-up. Yeah, we have so many people that are at that 102 or even above that are not able to get into homes, right? And that's really frustrating to hear from our constituents. Any insights on that?
So Steve Acroth, Administrator of the Nevada Housing Division. It's really a supply issue. I think you all have heard this, and that's one of the things that we're trying to address with the attainable funds is the development of smaller single-family homes that somebody who is at that income level can purchase. We have supply. The whole country has a supply issue, which has basically developed, over the past 15 years since the recession kind of bottomed out. And so, we don't need to assist people who are buying 2,500, 3,000 square foot homes. We really don't want home builders to build 2,500 and 3,000 square foot homes, but a home builder in private enterprise is going to build what's profitable for them. So what the Attainable Fund is designed to do is to help build 1,200, 1,500 square foot homes that are affordable to somebody at the income levels that you've indicated. And that's really, the more we can get, as to Senator Ellison's comment on developing a small community of less expensive homes, the more we can do that, the more we're going to be able to help folks at that income strata.
And this is Christine Hess for the record. I would just add the home ownership programs that the division sponsors. We do have a specific first-time homebuyer program, and that does have income restrictions of 80% of area median income because we utilize tax-exempt bonds for to support that program. However, first-time homebuyers, to your point, Senator, thank you so much for bringing this forward. First-time homebuyers can also access the division's programs because we extend the income levels by issuing taxable bonds as well so that we don't have the restrictions. So we do acknowledge and have been acknowledging that challenge for Nevadans with those strict area median incomes at 80% that just don't match the supply that is on the market, right? Additionally, so right now we pair those programs with the Worker Advantage program from the Nevada Attainable Housing Account, and you really have a comprehensive approach to reaching Nevada home buyers up to 150% area median income. To Administrator Across point, it's often our supply that's the biggest challenge.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? I don't see any. Thank you for being with us today and your presentation. Who's next?
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for having me. My name is Todd Park. I'm the Deputy Commissioner for the Nevada Transportation Authority. As you have probably seen in the news, transportation seems to continually change. I remember as a young boy, I would watch a cartoon called The Jetsons, and they had these little motorized airplanes that would fly around to get people to work. And I think we're closer to that now than we have ever been, and something that I never thought I would see happen. My agency currently regulates the transportation industry, which includes charter buses, limousines, household good movers, tow cars, tour buses, non-emergency medical transfers, employer van pools, airport transfer services, special services, warehouse permits, transportation network companies, commonly known as TNC, Uber and Lyft is probably the most prominent ones, and then autonomous vehicles statewide, and then also taxi cabs outside of Clark County. Clark County is specific because statutorily, the taxi cab authority takes care of any county that's over 700,000 people, which right now is only Clark County. We currently process driver permits. We have recently signed in with a program that we hope will make that driver permitting process more efficient, quicker. We also administrate the new carrier applications. We oversee the administrative and the enforcement hearings. We have hearing officers, and our commissioners are the hearing officers that oversee those court proceedings. We also do audit and inspections of the existing carriers, and then our enforcement officers are Nevada post-certified investigators. All of this is in an effort to keep our customers safe, and to make sure that the transportation agencies that we regulate are doing things properly, and we keep our customers in safe. Some of the division statistics: we have 511 active carriers. We have 563 CPCNs, or certificates, that the agency has issued. There's over 32,000 TNC drivers, and then we have about 13,000 non-TNC drivers. So you can see there's a lot of drivers that we regulate. We are, with the changing of the transportation industry, we're looking for new ways to keep up with the times. With autonomous vehicles, you don't have a driver in the vehicle, so we need to figure out how to regulate that, and that's something that we are continuing to look at and to come up with ideas on how to do that. With that, Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions. If there's no questions, I would actually ask if we could maybe pivot to slide 19, because I'm also the administrator of the Taxi Cab Authority.
Committee members, Senator Flores.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here. I know in the past I've had an opportunity to work with some constituents who, while navigating through the NTA and application process, brought up concerns on the interpleader process. And can you just talk us through that? This was, I'm talking four or 5 years ago now, and I know that there's been some active involvement from different commissioners and folk to really try to make it as transparent and fair as possible. But what they had raised to me, and at the time, these particular applicants took years because the interpleader process kept stopping their application process, and it was very frustrating to them. Eventually, after spending, I don't know, $80,000, $100,000 in lawyers and doing the work, got the application approved. But it just seemed very un-American, very shady that it was happening. And I'm hoping that we've transitioned away from that. But can you walk us through what that interpleader process is? Because the way they made it seem, if I'm an applicant, any one of the competitors who already holds a license and is in the space can file an interpleader, which then exposes me to have to show my application, show who my possible contracts are going to be with, and then that gives them an opportunity to say, well, wait a minute, now we know that he's trying to come into this space. He's trying to get all these different contracts, and then they preemptively go out there and try to beat them to it, which was crazy to me. But can you talk us through? Do we see any of that, or have we transitioned away from all that?
Thank you, Senator Flores, for the question. Again, Todd Park for the record. The application process is lengthy. There is an opportunity for people to intervene. It should not be because of competition, but there is a process for interventions. That's something that I hope to address in the future of trying to get that process changed. I understand that the application process takes a long time. I know that it can be expensive. There's a few reasons for why it may take so long. Some of it is on the applicant because it's just an educational process of where we need to explain the process, and it takes a few times sometimes for people to understand what the process is, because it is pretty specific on the regulations and what we need. So I hope that answers your question.
And it could be a conversation we take offline, but I'd be more than happy to work on addressing that anti-competition component of it. I understand the importance of saying, I am concerned that someone's coming into this space. I don't think they have a legitimate business practice. They have these flags that I want to bring up to the commission, 100% necessary, and that's really important. But when it's clearly just an anti-competition move so that we can keep people out of a space. The analogy that I've drawn many times is, for example, imagine if attorneys can make determinations on whether or not new attorneys can come into the space. They would draw arguments all day, every day. Look, I already have a huge market share. Why would we allow anybody else to come into the space? But when we have conversations in the NTA, that it seems like that is a valid argument. And so it just concerns me when we have new people coming into the space, we're innovative, creative members of our community, and we're just completely shutting them out. But again, this is not something we're going to address here, but I wanted to bring it up in the conversation because I really do wish that the committee would continue to engage in that particular concern and that we work together on addressing that issue.
Senator Chris Sanchez, for the record, Director of Department of Business and Industry. Be happy to work with you on that. I agree with the way that you're characterizing that. You know, we focus on safety and an equal playing field for everybody. That's the mandate of the NTA, and that's where we want to be. We certainly do not exist to protect industry outside of the safety concerns and ensuring that level playing field. So happy to work with you on that.
Committee members, any additional questions? Any questions from Carson City?
No, Chair, thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to page 19.
Thank you, Chair. Again, Todd Park for the record. I am the administrator for the Taxi Cab Authority. I often refer to the two agencies as sister agencies because several of the regulations are very similar in both of the agencies. Like I had already mentioned, we regulate all the taxi cabs in Clark County because it is over 700,000 people, the only county in the state that is currently over 700,000 people. If another county reached that population by statute, we would also regulate the taxi cabs in that county. We currently have 3,530 medallions. That has not changed for quite some time. There's 16 cab companies, and as of last week, a little over 4,700 active drivers. The rides pre-COVID were around 15.8 million. You can see that the rides have not bounced back completely since COVID. In 2023, there were 13.8 million. And then in 2025, there were 13.1 million. I'm trying to address that in several different ways by new technology and working with the industry on ways to hopefully get the ridership up again. Obviously, with the TNCs and other transportation modes that are coming into existence, the taxi industry is suffering a little bit. We continue to see the numbers decline, but we are working at trying to get that better. The key functions, again, driver permitting, we fingerprint and background every single driver. We want to make sure that the people that get into a taxi cab are safe and that the drivers have been fully vetted. We inspect every single vehicle at least once a year, plus anytime they get into an accident, we make sure that they're safe to be back out on the road. And then our enforcement staff, we continue to do routine patrol, do our investigations and impounds. And one of the things that surprised me when I took over, the amount of property that's left in taxi cabs is unbelievable. And our investigators and our dispatchers follow up on that a lot. So again, we want to make sure that the experience for the people that come into Clark County are safe, and that the taxi cab industry is doing their part in keeping that done. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Committee members, are there any questions? We don't see any in Las Vegas. Is there any questions from Carson City?
No questions in Carson City, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us today in your presentation.
Good morning, Chair Marzola, committee members. My name is Brett Harris. I'm the Nevada Labor Commissioner. So as many of you know, the Office of the Labor Commissioner is the primary private employment regulator in the state. We handle anything that is not designated elsewhere. What that actually ends up looking like is wage and hour claims, general employment complaints, compliance on public works projects. And we also have some licensing responsibilities. We oversee the Nevada State Apprenticeship Council. We do the prevailing wage survey every other year and update it in even years. And we also are responsible for regulating the Apprenticeship Utilization Act on public works projects. So we are an extremely busy agency. At the end of fiscal year 25, we had 26 full-time employees. Thanks to the legislature, under AB 502, at the end of fiscal year 26, we'll have 28 full-time employees. We actually just hired the 28th employee that we got January 1st. So we should be full here pretty soon. And then at the end of fiscal year 27, we'll have 31 total full-time employees to perform that work. To give you an idea of the volume of what goes through our office, I pulled our calendar year 2025 numbers. Our office processed 8,680 official unique matters. That means that's the number of things that went through our office that either got a claim number or a license number. That does not include passive contact with our office. We maintain 4 public email addresses that we respond to all the time during business hours. Obviously, we have phone service and counter service, public records requests, and any other responsibility that an agency gets just because they're an agency. We collected $3,234,611.86 in wages for Nevadans last year. We collected a total of $4,739,800.93 total across everything. So most of the money that we bring in does not stay with us. It goes out to Nevadans for the money that they're already owed. Our inaugural AUA reporting period. So in 2023, the legislature significantly changed the Apprenticeship Utilization Act. We had our inaugural reporting period in 2025 for the 2024 calendar year. It was extremely successful. We had 1,133 AUA reports were received. We used to get about 100 AUA claims a year. So that kind of gives you the difference in volume of what we handled. We also do this in a very tight period of time because the reporting period is statutorily limited, and then the investigation, or at least the notice of investigation period, is very statutorily limited. Of those, during that process, we generated $892,305.50 in penalties. So that did go to the general fund. We are in the second AUA reporting period ever right now. We are also, as you know, continuing all of our regular operations during that period. What I will tell you, just to get ahead of it, things that we are noticing with the current economy is an increase in wage and hour claims very quickly. 2024 to 2025, there were an additional 800 wage and hour in general complaints. So just things involving people's wages or employment rights year to year. And we're even looking at the last quarter and month to month, year to year, and we are at the same place what is today, the 22nd, 22 days into January, we are already about 10 claims away from hitting where we were, what we got in December, which was already 100 something claims over last December. So we're starting to see if there's an economic turn, we see it in wage claims, we see it in general complaints, and it is starting to come in now. I like to, where my investigators are happy or at least calm if we're under 400-ish claims a month. Right now, we are very close to 500. We will probably hit 500 in January. That is pretty much the summary of what is currently going on in our office. I will take any questions if you have them.
Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for giving us some of those numbers because it answered a lot of my questions. I have a quick question before I pass it to committee members. On these wage claims that you're getting, are they from the same employer? Do you see companies violating over and over again, or is it just spread across the valley?
Thank you, Chair Marzola, for the question. Brett Harris, Nevada Labor Commissioner. For the record, we have many repeat employers. Sometimes and currently, we are seeing a lot of, if a business closes, we'll get a lot of claims. If there is a significant number of layoffs, we'll get a lot of claims. A company can rack up 15, 20, 30 claims in one go. It's not unheard of. And what we are doing now is trying to be more aggressive in our penalty assessment with those repeat offenders. I have a new policy that we're not to reduce penalties on repeat offenders anymore. They know now. I've been here long enough. I've told them. So yeah, we see repeat claims, but we see brand new claims too. And the other problem that we see that is very frustrating, very difficult to deal with, and I understand sometimes the frustration comes at us, is you will have an employer who will start a business, who will shut down that business and then start another business and then play all the games of why we cannot collect from them because they're under a new business. So we've worked with this, or we're trying to speak with the Secretary of State's office to see what we can do about that. I would love to discuss that further with you guys. But yes, that is something that we see, successive offenders, and then successive offenders who close up their business and start another one.
Thank you for that answer. And yes, we should definitely talk offline. Thank you. Committee members, Vice Chair.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And really just a follow up to the chair's question. Is there a specific industry where you see maybe more claims than others?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Brett Harris, Nevada Labor Commissioner. For the record, we see trends. You'll see trends in home health care. You'll see trends in restaurants a lot. We'll see trends in like service, like general service, customer service type of jobs. But it really, I always say everything comes in waves with us. When we see one thing, it starts to pop up over and over.
Assemblymember Miller.
Thank you, Chair. And with those trends and the increase that you're experiencing of these claims, and you stated that you believe this is due to the economic downturn, but I would like to know if you could explain maybe some of what types of complaints that we're seeing, and also how much of it do you believe is possibly due to the federal dismissal of so many class protections, and if we see trends in that happening from people bringing claims forward.
Brett Harris, Nevada Labor Commissioner. For the record, so we can only take private employment claims, so we could not take federal employee claims. I'm sorry, what was the other part of the question?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean from federal employees. I meant, but there is an effort to dismiss those protections that had been in place in multiple industries. So not a federal employee, but someone working in Nevada who's making claims about whatever these wage or unfair employment issues are. I'm wondering if we're seeing other trends. What are the types of complaints that are coming forward?
Brett Harris, Nevada Labor Commissioner, for the record. So we have a lot of last paycheck claims. So when somebody's terminated or laid off, they must be paid technically immediately, but the law gives them 3 days grace period. That's our most common for wage claims is I didn't get my last check. We also have wage claims under things like I was deducted for wages for my breaks. I wasn't paid proper overtime. We don't see a ton of minimum wage claims, like violations of minimum wage, people paying under $12 an hour, but it's not impossible. We do have them. But I would say last paychecks when people are terminated or laid off, but also last paychecks when people voluntarily leave.
Senator Flores.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know that I believe there's some nonprofits that reach out and work with you with issues with misclassification and labor trafficking issues. I think my understanding is they reach out and work with T visas. Can you just walk us through some of that? Have you been seeing a lot of that, or am I incorrect in that they're doing that work alongside of you?
Brett Harris, Nevada Labor Commissioner, for the record. Do you have an example?
The T visa typically involves where sometimes individuals who are undocumented will be brought into the U.S. and then in exchange for them entering the U.S., they work for a year or two under very horrible conditions or they just don't get paid. That's their way of paying back the what they call coyote or snakehead. But that's just one of like many examples. Other times they're just misclassified, and they're working at a factory and they're the boss, but that's the title, but they're just misclassified. They're actually hourly employees. But so I'm curious to know, and I could have sworn, and it just may be a misunderstanding on my end, that I thought some of these nonprofits were working directly with your office to address some of those issues.
Brett Harris, Nevada Labor Commissioner, for the record. So we had one. I know there is a immigration document that we can attest to if we have an active investigation and we need the complainant's contributions to that investigation. That is correct. So if you have an open claim and we need you, there's a document that their immigration attorney has sent over to me to sign off on to acknowledge that yes, there is an open claim and we do need this person's testimony or information for the purposes of the claim. Since I've been there, it's happened very infrequently.
And Madam Chair, one very quick follow-up on that. If you wouldn't mind, for those who can't afford an attorney and or know of the nonprofits to help with this issue, could you just briefly in a couple lines walk them through that process, and I could just maybe cut this video and show them how to reach out to your office to do that. I don't think a lot of folk necessarily know that there's recourse for them when they've been a victim of something like this. But what would be the proper steps for them to get that certification from your office?
Brett Harris, Nevada Labor Commissioner, for the record. So I don't want to be wrong because it is a federal legal process. And there was one time I just signed it and the federal government came to me and said, you have to explain why this person is eligible for this status. So I want to be correct in my answer to you. Would you mind if I follow up by email?
Yeah, that would be perfect. And it's just something that I want to be able to share for those folk who don't know how to do it and can help them out. Thank you.
Brett Harris, Nevada Labor Commissioner, for the record. I just want to clarify one thing. So that in the interactions I've had that involved being requested to sign that documentation, it was sent to me by an attorney. So an immigration attorney who would be much better suited than I would to advise anybody on their immigration rights.
Can I just ask one more question on the record? And I also, would it be inappropriate when folk are identified as victims of these labor practices. And really, it's not labor practices; they're really slaves. But to direct them to your office, or will that create more chaos than help them?
Brett Harris, Nevada Labor Commissioner, for the record. You should absolutely direct anyone to our office who is not being paid minimum wage or not being paid period or being subjected to non-payment of overtime, not getting their anything that falls under our jurisdiction, obviously. If somebody has an active claim in Nevada and also has an immigration status question, there is overlap in those two areas. I could not advise them onto the immigration portion.
Committee members, any additional questions? Don't see any in Las Vegas. Are there any questions in Carson City?
No questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Good morning, Chair Marzola, Vice Chair Pazina, members of the committee, Sharat Chandra, Administrator for the Real Estate Division. We also have Sharvis Fogar, Deputy Administrator, sitting in the audience. Just a quick, brief presentation about the Real Estate Division. So functionally, we license over 41,000 licensees, anywhere from real estate licensees, builders, developers, timeshare, appraisers, energy auditors, inspectors of structures. So that's the licensing section. We also have a large education section that is a hub for all real estate education, training, information. And of course, there's a compliance component to it, which is enforcement activity. So and the numbers there are just for a fiscal year, we get a lot of complaints, cases, a lot of walk-ins, and a lot of calls. So that's the compliance section, deals with a lot of that, that back and forth with just regular public, but also licensees. Then, of course, the Office of the Ombudsman, we have over 3,800 associations, and that grows every year. That's approximately 630,000 as of most recently units. We, add more units every year, new associations every year, and we also have community managers that are licensed that work in these associations. So we have currently about 780 odd professional licensed community managers. And of course, the Office of the Ombudsman is here to assist homeowners with their rights and responsibilities. We have a couple of different sections within that. We've got education training, alternate dispute resolution, informal conferencing, and then a compliance section also that deals with complaints, violations of 116. Then, of course, we have three commissions. We have the Commission of Real Estate, which is a 5-member body. We also have an appraisal commission, and of course, a commission for HOAs, common interest communities and condominium hotels. That, in essence, is what the Real Estate Division does, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Committee members, are there any questions? Senator Flores.
Madam Chair, one quick question. 2,837 complaints received. Is that considered a lot? Is that a little? And then I have one quick follow-up to that, Madam Chair.
That is probably close. I mean, you're going to have some ups and downs, but essentially that's the volume that the Real Estate Division, and again, just to frame this, these are regular questions, concerns, outside jurisdiction, because really the real estate focuses on 645 and RS 645 and that related matter. But when someone says real estate, it kind of expands the horizons of what potentially people can call and complain about. And so part of that is that kind of filtering process. But the Real Estate Commission is very active. You see there's 900, and that varies about 100 to 200 more or less every year. So that's on the compliance piece.
And the quick follow-up, Madam Chair, and this is not a I gotcha question and or to put you in a political position. I am just curious to know, have you been getting a lot of conversations stirring up, and if they are, I'm assuming they've been ongoing, on how we can ensure we're putting single home buyers kind of at the forefront over businesses? I know it's an ongoing conversation. It's all over the media. So again, I'm not trying to pin you to say, yes, we have to do more and not do enough. But I'm just curious to know, in the real estate world, are realtors talking about this issue? Are you hearing about it in complaints? Is this something that's there, or is this more of a politicians are talking about this, but the industry reacts to whatever you put out there?
Sharat Chandra, Administrator for the Real Estate Division. Fantastic question. Again, it's so nuanced and layered. My background is housing. That's what I did in Clark County and at the state before I moved over here. So that is a fundamental problem. There's a supply-demand issue, and there is this kind of constraint for individual home buyers that try to get homes. From the real estate division side, realtors are very focused on their clients. So it doesn't matter what that spectrum is, they're very focused on walking them through that process because the incentives are all built in to make sure that this person gets from here into a home. So that's there. Then there's another element to it, which is now the larger developers are also looking for rental. So there's this new build, which is a rental build. And so that's a different model that we haven't seen before. So that's also prevalent. That's something that's kind of outside of our kind of scope because we kind of look at licensees and what their activities are. So there's that, which there are a couple of repercussions to that because ultimately we do oversee builders. So Southern Nevada home builders, Northern Nevada home builders, all home builders come through our office when they're creating new developments. So this one it's rental, so it's not for sale. So that model is different. So eventually, let's say, for example, someone built something and they rented it out. At some point, if they decide to then sell it, the question becomes, how does that work? And so those are some of those questions that are all around there. But fundamentally, the question you asked was, is there a affordability and kind of, compaction of units? There is. But I don't know from the real estate side how realtors really interact on that end of it because they represent their clients.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any additional questions? Are there any questions from Carson City?
No questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a quick question. There were 917 cases opened. Can you tell me, and I'm not all of them, right? But can you tell me the type of cases that are being opened, the type of complaints that you're seeing over and over again?
Sharat Chandra, Administrator for the Real Estate Division. That's a great question. We do have a breakdown, and I should have brought that with me. But really, it's kind of like Brett was talking about. It comes in waves, whatever the kind of the economic situation is. But a lot of it is community managers. So not community managers, but property managers. And so if you're a real estate agent, you can also have a property management permit. So that allows you to manage multiple properties for homeowners. Sometimes there's issues with deposits and those kind of things. So those are a big component. So from the real estate commission side, that's a big emphasis for the commissioners to say, if you get a property management permit, you have to know that you have to keep dedicated accounts, and those are the things that have to be there in place in commingling of funds. And so we have education programs, but also that's a focus for us. The protections for people that use licensed real estate agents that are property managers is the fact that there's recourse. Sometimes there's no recourse if you don't. And so that's the protections that we have. So that's some of the big, but because 645 is so vast, the cases are multi-layered. It's not one problem, it's multiple things. So the cases, and that's why most of the cases, like we were talking about earlier, it's a filter. We try to solve most of the problems, but then the complicated cases are then investigated, goes to the Attorney General's office, they can prepare the case and it's presented before the commission. And that's why the 5-member panel is pretty busy doing, but I will give the committee a breakout of our general categories that we see most often.
Thank you. That was going to be my next ask. So if you can submit it to the committee secretary, we'll make sure all the committee members get it. Thank you so much. Any additional questions? I don't see any. Thank you. Does that conclude your presentation?
Chris Sanchez, Director. Yes, it does. Thank you, Chair.
I'm going to go and just do one more ask. Any questions for any? Senator Flores.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I apologize, I didn't ask. I thought we were going to wait to the very end. But when we were talking about the Title 54 boards, I know, Director, that we obviously spoke at length during session. And I have not been in this building once, any session where we don't talk about issues with the boards. While some are very well organized, very high functioning boards, we know that we've had huge problems with others. And I know that there was an ambitious plan to try to address that. But I'm curious to know post session what some of these conversations are going. I understand that we have that new role and that new position, and they're kind of playing a supportive arm, and we're hoping to be able to address some things. I suspect that it's not going to be enough to really address all the concerns we have. But I am curious to know what post-session conversations are looking like. I'm assuming now everybody has a bunch of feedback, because once you start doing something, everybody comes out from everywhere and they have the perfect solution that maybe they had not discussed with you before. But I'm just curious to know where we're at.
Chris Sanchez, for the record, Director. Thank you, Senator, for the question. I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about that today. And then I'd like to turn it over to Nikki, who's in the north, for her comments as well. The approach we've taken is twofold. One is the regulatory framework development, which Nikki's been immersed in and working on since the session ended, so she can speak to that. The other is also trying to provide services. As we've heightened awareness around boards and what the boards are doing, there's other state agencies that have been looking at their statutes and looking at some of the requirements that they have for the occupational licensing boards. That has had some ripple effects and impacts, and so we are helping those boards navigate that. We are trying to provide assistance. Ultimately, as we talked about during the legislative session, we're trying to ensure that we have a system that functions well, that meets the needs of our constituents. And there was a lot of components of that reform agenda, but we're not focused on reform right now. We're focused on that reg development and providing services where we can. There are a lot of questions. We get a lot of inquiries from the boards into Nikki, into our fiscal division. We're not quite set up for that, because if you remember, all the occupational licensing boards are self-funded. We don't have any funding coming in from the occupational licensing boards to support their efforts, other than what we have with Nikki and her new staff that'll be coming on soon. And Nikki, I'm going to turn it over to you now. I see you're at the table, but I know she has some more detail on those areas.
Thank you, Director Sanchez. Nikki Haig for the record. Yes, so since the session, we started working on the regulatory process, which was established with SB 431 requiring the office to set up the regulations. So we have started that process with LegCom. We've had our first work session, went back and modified the regulations that we proposed during that first workshop. Looked at a lot of the comments from the boards, the executive directors, and some of the stakeholders that came to that workshop. We had about 70 attendees that came to that. So looking back through what they had proposed and the requests that they asked for the changes, we tried to adopt as many of those that we could. I have forwarded that back in to the LCB for the draft writers, have done some communications back and forth, and so I'm just waiting to get the next version, or the next reprint of what those regulations will look like. We then plan to have a second workshop. As soon as we get those back, we'll hold a second workshop and then begin to go through the public hearing and the rest of the process to try to get those regulations established. As far as working with the other divisions within, or the other departments within the executive branch, we have worked with risk management on the workers' compensation. That was a pretty big fiscal impact on a lot of the boards. Some of the boards went from paying into for their workers' compensation into a private and not through through risk management for that workers' compensation piece. So some of the boards that hit significantly to them, they went, from paying maybe $12,000 a year to $75,000 a year. Some of the smaller boards went from paying about $350 a year to paying around $1,200 a year. So that is an impact that hit them. Another impact that hit them is with the AG's office. The AG's office increased their fees for their DAGs per hour. And then through the cybersecurity that happened with the state, we've realized that some of the boards are working with the GTO, are fully supported by GTO. Some of the boards are in a hybrid. They have part of their services are with GTO. Some of their services are with outside entities. And then some of the boards are not supported by GTO at all. So that's another one that we are currently looking into. We have also addressed some of the contract issues with the boards working with state purchasing on those contracts. So we're making sure that the boards are able to get into sets and are able to get VPN access if they didn't have VPN access. So a lot of good things are moving forward in working with them. Once we do get the regulations established, the 9 positions that were approved through the session, but we didn't get funded, it will be essential for us to be able to have that funding for those positions in order for us to be able to implement the regulations that we are trying to put forward. It will require us to be able to have the funding for that staffing so that we are able to continue to work with the boards and get them to the level that we are all hoping for them to be on. So if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Just a comment, Madam Chair. Yeah, and I just wanted to say thank you. I mean, granted, it's easy to be critical in this space because everybody has a different perspective and vision on how to do this. The fact that you're tackling the issue is appreciated. It's a conversation that's been happening for too long in this building. I think a lot of folk were hesitant and concerned on the angle to take, but you have to take one and then go with it and see if it works, right? So good luck to you, and hopefully the legislative body can be as helpful as possible. And it sounds like you're working with everybody to the extent that you can. So I just wanted to hear where everything was at. So thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Steinbeck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mine's not a question, just a comment, and it's to you, Madam Chair. You asked us earlier subjects that we're interested in hearing on this committee, and certainly one that came to mind while we were talking through this is the affordability of insurance, right? Something we're hearing from all our constituents, specifically on health, auto, and property. And so I'd like to definitely try to work more towards that through this interim.
Thank you. And yes, that is one of the issues that we will be hearing, not only health insurance, but specifically auto insurance. We will move to Carson City. Assemblyman O'Neill, do you have a question?
Actually, not on this issue. My question is with the insurance commissioner, so I think we'll be covering that in the next agenda item, correct, Chair?
Sorry, I'm fighting with my microphone today. Yes.
Good enough. I'll hold it then. Thank you very much, Chair.
Any other questions in Carson City? I don't see any. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gaines, you may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, committee members, for having me back again. I'm going to go do a little bit of expansion on the items that I discussed earlier. First off, as many of you are probably aware, I took on this position in early October of 2025, and then I was in the acting role from July 2nd until taking on the official appointment in October. In that time, I've been doing a complete review of the operations of the division to determine, where the weaknesses are, where gaps exist, where we need resources, possibly new people. So that has been my priority during my first 3 months in office. Excuse me. So now I'm, ready to move forward with putting some of those items in place. So I just want to start off with our mission statement, which is to protect the rights of Nevada consumers and their experiences with the insurance industry and to ensure the financial solvency of insurers. So those are our two primary goals. We want to maintain a solvent, vibrant insurance industry in Nevada. That is a form of consumer protection, because if consumers do not have any companies to offer policies, they are not protected from all of the various risks. For financial regulation, we monitor the financial solvency of all insurers that are doing business, well, not doing business, but that are domiciled in the state of Nevada. We are the primary regulator for those companies. They must have adequate capital to meet long-term commitments, sufficient cash to meet short-term outlays, and we obtain quarterly and annual financial statements to review. And then there are mandatory examinations every 3 to 5 years. We also, review market regulation, making sure that rates are not excessive, inadequate, or unfairly discriminatory, that the policy documents that are issued to the insureds are in compliance with Nevada law, that policyholders and claimants are treated fairly, and the insurance market is competitive and welcoming to new entrants. Some highlights of 2025 in our producer licensing area and adjuster licensing, we licensed over 53,000 new adjusters and producers. The majority of those are out-of-state producers. Because insurance crosses state lines, it is very common these days for a policy that is issued in Nevada may be sold in another state, but the producer who sells it must be licensed here, and the Division of Insurance handles that. We took in 4,071 consumer complaints, and from that, we ended up obtaining over $9 million in refunds for those consumers. Most common complaints that we receive are related to claims adjusting. Many times, the adjuster, may not calculate something correctly. There may be a dispute over the value of a particular item. Most commonly, those are going to be homeowners and auto claims. And then for our company licensing area, we took in 720 applications. And those are new entities that are wanting to come into Nevada to do business. They're based out of other states, or they are looking to add a new line of insurance to be able to sell here. The products that we regulate, all of your typical normal auto, homeowners, property, health, dental insurance, life insurance, title, travel, long-term care, even pet insurance. Additionally, we regulate motor clubs, funeral and cemetery, bail agents, viatical settlements, and service contracts. These lines do not meet the typical definition of insurance, but they are risk transfer vehicles, which is why they fall under the DOI's jurisdiction. We do a number of community outreach events. We have educational publications, regular social media updates, public meetings. We partner with other agencies. We specifically partner very closely with DIR due to the self-insured workers' comp that falls under the DOI's jurisdiction. We also do stakeholder meetings and participate in a variety of conferences. As commissioner, I am a member of the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, which is the administrative body for all commissioners throughout the United States and the territories. There are 56 jurisdictions overall, all 50 states, Washington, D.C., Guam, Northern Mariana Islands, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. The NAIC does not set policy. Rather, they are a way for commissioners to interact with one another, share common issues, and try to find common ground and consistency in the way regulation is done. While every state has different laws, we do want to regulate in a consistent manner because insurers are doing business across all jurisdictions. And that concludes my presentation. I am happy to take questions, which I am sure you have.
Thank you for your presentation. We will start in Carson City. We will start with Assemblymember O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Gaines, first of all, I'll say welcome aboard and thank you for coming, working for the state as our insurance commissioner. I've spoken with you a couple times. What I want to talk about, could you go into further depth and maybe educate the committee as a whole on AB 376? How is it working out? The goal is to reduce the insurance, make it more affordable on fire protection, basically, which has been affecting really Nevada, but across the country. Could you just go in on how that's working? Because I think we've just started approval of some of the new plans, haven't we?
Thank you for the question. For the record, Ed Gaines, Commissioner of Insurance. And yes, with AB 376, that does several things related to homeowners policies. Two of the main, and what I view as the most important aspects of it, is it does allow homeowner insurance companies to carve out the wildfire risk from the homeowner policy. So that was done because people were losing their entire homeowner's policy coverage. And, you know, while fire is definitely a high risk, and usually a fire can result in a total loss for the home, there are a variety of other risks that we want people to be able to maintain coverage for. So it would still cover any other type of fire that happened, that took place in the home. It would just allow the company not to cover the wildfire. And for homes that are in high wildfire areas, it was a way for them to be able to keep that coverage. I am happy to say that to date, no insurance company doing business in Nevada has carved out wildfire from their homeowner policy. That is not something that they can just do. They must file that with the Division of Insurance and receive prior approval before doing so. In my conversations with the various carriers, none of them have even expressed interest in carving out the wildfire risk. Now, that's not to say that somebody won't come along and do it, but it's possible. But at this time, the industry is not really looking at it. Second thing that it does is it creates a regulatory sandbox to allow insurers to come in with innovative ideas that maybe don't quite meet the statutory requirements, and allow my office to do a full review to determine that it would not cause any consumer harm, but allow them to implement it, even though there may be certain statutes that it doesn't quite fit into, but it would allow for that innovation for them to be able to offer that to their consumers. One of the ideas that I'm actually very shocked, I talked with the assemblyman about this, is not one insurer has come and proposed implementing a wildfire deductible. That's something that's very, very simple that they could do, and it would immediately allow for the consumer to take charge and decide what works best for them. How much of the risk are they able to take on? And if by adjusting that wildfire deductible, it would bring down the cost of their insurance. It would also be a way for carriers to continue writing in high wildfire risk areas.
Chair, may I follow up?
Go ahead.
I guess what I'm hearing from you, Commissioner, is the insurance companies they raised rates. Various realtors, homeowners, et cetera, raised their voice. We, the state, we brought forth a program that would actually possibly lower insurance rates for the homeowners, and the insurance companies aren't taking advantage of playing and trying to actually address the issues in servicing their customers, lowering rates, providing insurance, still making a profit. And that, I guess I'm summarizing, we're almost wasting our time. Is that what you're telling me with?
No. Thank you for
So far, nobody's expressed any interest? I'm a little disappointed.
Well, thank you for the question. For the record, Ned Gaines, Commissioner of Insurance. There are some companies that are starting to express interest. I've been in the insurance industry for quite a while. And one thing, the insurance industry is very slow to move. They do not make very quick decisions. They are very methodical, especially the old line carriers that have been around, since really the beginning of the modern insurance market. I have had many conversations with carriers, and they are expressing interest. They just haven't decided yet how they're going to do it.
Chair, you going to give me another minute?
Director Sanchez.
Yeah, Chris Sanchez, Director of Department of Business and Industry. On that point, and thank you for the question, Assemblymember O'Neill, one of the things we're doing, and Ned and team have been instrumental in, is that we're putting together a series of conversations with experts in this space that are regional, as well as our fire chiefs and individuals that are working in all the technology development that'll help mitigate risk. I'll be blunt, I've not been happy with how the insurance industry has responded to this in Nevada. And because of that, we are digging into how risk is assessed, how we can mitigate risk, what technologies can be deployed, and try to come up with a better policy regime that gets at protecting Nevada consumers. And so we are starting that effort in earnest here within the next month. We are working on calendaring that first meeting here within the next several weeks. And we plan on having a series of meetings with folks that tackle this issue from multiple perspectives, from the folks on the ground that are fighting the fires to the individuals that are building new technologies that can address what you do from a community scale, to what you do at the micro scale at the homeowner level, to what policies may need to be advanced and changed, and how we manage that risk in partnership with our other jurisdictions, be they federal or regional or local. So there's more to come on this. Assemblymember, we'd be happy to come back and brief this body on any progress we make and what comes out of those meetings.
Chair, if I may, I appreciate that, Director and Commissioner, because I am disappointed. The insurance companies weren't slow to raise rates. We're giving them opportunity, and this bill sunsets. And if it takes them a couple of years, we're already at the sunset term. And our constituents are still being, I'm almost use the word victimized by their inability to take advantage of what we've been offering to still conduct business. So, Director, I appreciate those meetings. If there's anything I can do, and I would ask Chair that we take you up on coming back and keeping us abreast of how the meetings are going. And if there's anything I can do to assist, please let me know, because this has been an issue, particularly up here in the north, in several of our districts. So thank you, and thank you, Chair, for the time.
If I may, to follow up on the question, one thing I do want to point out is, the
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Yes, sorry. For the record, Ned Gaines, Commissioner of Insurance. I would like to follow up on that. As you say, insurers are raising the rates, and that's something that the Division of Insurance, we look at those rates when they come in, and we are seeing insurers come in wanting to increase their rates by 40-50%. Well, insurance rating, they're looking at the past experience. They're also looking at perspective, what could happen, and they need to have reserves for what could happen. However, that past experience is very important, and because they are showing a profit, it's very difficult for us to agree to those rates. We had one most recent that we were working with. They asked for a 45% rate increase on the homeowner's policy. Ultimately, we approved a little over 9%. So we do cut it down as much as we possibly can, because they aren't showing us their experience that they need that kind of rate.
Do you have any additional questions, Assemblyman O'Neill?
No, I thank the commissioner. Like I said, I've spoken with him, and I'm very impressed with his position, his helpfulness on this issue. I am just very disappointed in the insurance companies themselves are not taking advantage of this. I understand actuaries and I understand their hesitancy, but this sunsets. I've got constituents, I'm going to say we all have constituents that have been affected by the wildland fires and the rates that are raised, and I really think we should stay abreast on this issue and seeing that it's promoted and what we have to do. We've talked about medical insurance going up, the cost of several things, and here is another one too. I'll shut up. I appreciate the time, Chair. I think our senator also has a question for you, if you may. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commissioner, for your work.
Before we pass it to the senator, Director, you said that you are having conversations. Are these conversations happening on a weekly basis, monthly basis?
Chris Sanchez, Director, thank you for the question, Chair. We're just now starting to try to get them scheduled. So we're bringing in regional experts, folks that are out of state as well. There's several, I know that the Commissioner mentioned one of the conferences or the national organization that we're a member of, or the office is a member of. During those conferences, they bring in experts that have different technologies and different ways of solving some of the issues that the industry faces. In several of these previous conferences, they've had a focus on fire. We have several of those folks we've talked to in the director's office. One of the companies, for instance, has a mapping tool with drones that can map the type of tree and how much moisture is in that tree and get real specific and mapping out where those threats are and what that looks like. What we're trying to do is look at how that threat assessment is done utilizing these new technologies and how that comes to play in how the companies assess risk, and then what can be done at the community level. So there's a lot of interplay there. There's a lot of people that we have to get involved in the conversation. And so we're literally just getting started after coming back from the New Year's and identifying those stakeholders, getting these meetings set up, and bringing folks in to start to educate us on what we may not know, so that we're not waiting for the next catastrophic fire before we come up with solutions that could help our homeowners and solve some of this.
Okay, and I appreciate that. So if we want you back June or July for an update, will that put a fire under everyone to make sure that these conversations are being had?
Chris Sanchez, Director, I appreciate the pun, and yes, we'll be back in June.
Thank you. Senator. Senator Steinbeck?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy with that bill that we did pass on that, and all solutions are, welcomed. My question is if a insurance company did carve out wildfire, isn't the lien holder still going to require wildfire insurance, and there's really going to be no solution there for the consumer?
Chris Sanchez, Director, I know, yes, the answer is yes. I'm sure Ned may have some more color he wants to put on that, but that is a concern of ours as well.
Yes.
Did you have an answer?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Could you? This is Ned Gaines for the record. Could you repeat that last half of your question? I missed that.
Yes, the question was if a insurance company was to cut out wildfire from their policies or the requirements, isn't the lien holder still going to just require wildfire insurance, and then the consumer is still going to be back at square one?
That is most likely what would happen, yes. If they have a lien on the house, the mortgage company is going to look for that coverage. If it's not available in the private market, then it would be forced placed through the mortgage company. That is something that at the division that we are working on is looking at finding a way of having that carve out. We are looking at possibly using catastrophe bonds. These have been used in other jurisdictions. One of the most prominent of recent note was the country of Jamaica. Jamaica had taken out a catastrophe bond to allow them to assist their residents if a catastrophe occurred. We had the hurricane that happened recently. Insurance is not something that is commonly purchased in Jamaica. The vast majority of homeowners do not buy it on their homes. So this catastrophe bond was $150 million that the government of Jamaica had immediate access to, that they were able to pay out to their residents to help with the recovery. There are a number of different entities that work in this space. Most notably is Munich Re, which is a very large international reinsurer, but they have helped several jurisdictions set up these catastrophe bonds. It could be a viable way for Nevada to have a secondary market for the wildfire coverage, that under the ideal situation, we would be able to find an insurance company that would work as the administrator, and then they would set up the catastrophe bond in the event of a catastrophe. And also people that would be able to sign on to this, it would help with mitigation as well, because before they would be allowed to purchase their portion of the cat bond, they would have to take the steps to mitigate their property to ultimately lower the wildfire risk altogether.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Elliott, do you still have, or Ellison, do you still have a question?
Yes, ma'am. I've got a couple questions, and I'll make them easy. The problem we're having is I've got constituents who say, look, we've got them $300,000 motor home on a foundation. It's like a house, but yet they're being denied because it's still a mobile home, but it's on a foundation. It's built just like a house, but they're being denied insurance in Nevada. That's one. And then two, this fire deal, I've got a couple houses right in the middle of town, and they're telling me I cannot get insurance on it because it's in a fire danger. That's crazy. They'd have to burn the whole town to get down to it. It just doesn't make sense. And you go to Vegas, them motor homes are on foundations, or mobile homes. They're on foundations, but yet they can be insured, but in the rules they can't. Explain that.
Thank you for the question. Ned Gaines, Commissioner of Insurance, for the record. Now, I hear your concerns, and those are concerns that we have as well. One thing I would ask that if you do have constituents reaching out to you with these types of issues, refer them to the Division of Insurance. It is something we can take a look at. Mobile homes, and even those on foundation, they are a unique risk. Not every insurance company will even cover them. Uniquely, there's an annual report that insurers must file with all departments of insurance. It's called a Market Conduct Annual Statement, but I won't go into details. Under that, mobile homes are classified as auto. So insurers report those policies under their auto risk that they've covered. So they are very unique. That being said, there are companies out there that do write. That's why we do recommend shop around. We can help with that. And we can also talk to the insurance company to find out exactly why they didn't write it. Is it a matter of they just don't write that coverage? Or was there something specific to that risk that maybe the consumer, they can take care of it and then get the policy? But we're there to assist them.
Yeah, follow up, ma'am. The thing that you got is you've got one insurance policy in rural Nevada, and that's it. So you get on the internet. I had this guy come into my office, got on the internet, and we looked all over Idaho, Utah, California, everywhere, and they're being denied to come into the state of Nevada. So I don't know if somebody's telling them they can't come in the state of Nevada, or if it's a policy within. But I don't know. I bet you we had 20, 30 response back says they won't. And there's a lot of ranchers out there with, on foundations. They're stick built. They're 2x6 outside studs or 2x4s inside. I mean, they're as good as any house. The problem is they're being denied insurance. So if you can get give me a list of names of people in Nevada, I'm more than happy to call them for them, and I'll get them in touch with you. But it's ridiculous when they're being denied insurance in rural Nevada, and it's in towns. It's some of them.
Ned Gaines, Commissioner of Insurance, for the record. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. This is the first I've heard of this problem. I don't know if, as many of you may know, I came from the Department of Insurance in Washington State. This was not an issue I've heard of before, and so this is something we are going to do a further investigation into, because that is concerning that many people are being denied coverage. Because to my knowledge, there are a number of companies that sell mobile home coverage. So I need to do some more research and find out if they're not doing business here, why.
Any additional questions from Carson City? I don't see any. I do have is there a question?
No questions, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I do have a question. You stated earlier that mobile homes are categorized as auto. Can you explain why? I mean, I can see the ones that are easily moved, but the ones that there is no intention for them to be moved. So I'm a little confused.
Thank you for the question, Ned Gaines, Commissioner of Insurance, for the record. It goes back to, as I was speaking earlier, insurance companies move slowly. Some of the ways that they categorize things are a bit antiquated, and this is one of those areas. And it really has to do with the financial reporting and how they report it on their financial statement. They have the option of including it in their homeowner data, but the vast majority of them are holding on to from when the period of mobile homes weren't typically put on slabs. They just continue to report it as auto. But it speaks to the very unique nature of this particular line of insurance. There have been some updates with that. They all do now have their own category within the homeowners series, because we number it. There's what's called an HO1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and now mobile homes are categorized in I believe they're the HO6. So on paper, they're viewed as a homeowner's policy, but it just has to do with how it gets reported on their financials.
So is it something that needs to be updated? Will it help Nevadans if it's updated?
No, because this is something that's done at the national level.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Senator Flores?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have maybe two separate angles. One is a little bit more overview, Commissioner, and then the second is more specific. I guess I'll start off with the kind of typical complaint that I think we hear from constituents, which is they're paying X amount of premiums every year, whether it's home or vehicle, and then namely when it comes to home issues, but we've heard it also with uninsured or underinsured coverage, where there's a refusal to pay, and there's a back and forth, constant emails, phone calls, and that it appears to be more of a game of exhaustion versus legitimacy, where eventually if you go through the dance of a week or a month or 2 months, eventually they'll approve the claim. I'm just curious to know if is that still something you often hear as a complaint? And then any advice for our constituents who are kind of going through that scenario?
Thank you for the question. Ed Gaines, Commissioner of Insurance, for the record. Those are complaints that we receive regarding the claim handling for uninsured motorist coverage. Now, there's two parts to uninsured motorist coverage. There is the bodily injury. So if you were injured in the accident and the other party who was at fault for the loss is not insured, then that's where your policy kicks in, and then there's the actual property damage. The majority of complaints that we receive related to uninsured motorists relates to the property damage side. We do receive them for the bodily injury as well. The bodily injury gets a little bit trickier because there is some subjectivity to it. Sometimes, people will go and get a legitimate treatment, but then there are other times that, we have seen where people do overtreat. The vast majority, that's not the issue. However, how to put this in the best way? I will agree with you. There is some back and forth and a little bit of trying to wear people down. That's usually where we step in, because what happens when we get a complaint, we're capable of asking for the entirety of the file from that insurance company to see exactly what they've done. And then that's when I was speaking earlier of being able to get recovery. That's where we start to be able to put pressure on them to say, okay, we're noticed that you didn't contact the person here. Why are these notes the way they are? Why are you only paying for this when obviously this was something that was reasonable? We do dig into it quite deeply. Unfortunately, not everybody knows about us. We want people to be able to call. That's why we do the outreach. But it is an ongoing problem. If we find that there is a particular company that we are receiving these types of complaints on a regular basis, then we have the ability to go in and do what's called a market conduct examination, where we do an even deeper dive into their overall business practices, and then we work on percentages, because mistakes happen, and we're not going to go after an insurance company that made a honest mistake. However, if it's a pattern, then that's what we're looking for. The standard threshold for when we're doing a claim review is if we find errors in excess of 5% of the population that we did the review on, we can take action against the company at that time. So we are looking at this. It's something that we do on a constant basis.
And then, Madam Chair, if I may go into something more specific, and the other issue that I hear often about, this is namely from mom and pop's body shops, that when they are in the process of doing the repairs, that the insurance companies are very difficult to work with when it comes to storage. From I think when they, and I have gone in and at times reviewed the NRS alongside them, just curious to know what's happening. And I know that they have some language in there where if you notify the insurance company, the vehicle is here, you give them X amount of time, and sometimes they may take a week or two before they come in, check in, they send an adjuster, et cetera, et cetera. And then afterwards, the body shop will try to get them to specifically cover that storage fee for that time that we notified you, we gave you ample time, it took you a couple of weeks before you came and checked it out, and they refused to pay. And then the other concern that body shops bring up, and I've only heard it from mom and pops, they feel that it's more of a systemic issue against the smaller body shops versus larger body shops who may have attorneys. That they're using OEM replacement parts, and or they don't find comparable parts that are aftermarket because they don't meet specific specifications according to whatever rules they follow, but that the insurance company fights them on that and refuses to cover those expenses, or says, look, that bumper is $1,500, but we think you could have used the aftermarket. We're only going to give you $1,100. Do you hear a lot of issues like that in complaints from body shops? And what would you recommend that they do? Should they be immediately reaching out to you? Because they also have expressed that concern that it feels like it's a back and forth with the intent of getting them to become frustrated, tired, and kind of give up.
Thank you for your question. Ned Gaines, Commissioner of Insurance, for the record. Yes, they do need to contact us. We can get involved in, especially the storage fees, if they can show that they immediately notified the insurance company and that the vehicle was there, but then the insurance company takes a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get out there, then it is reasonable for the body shop to expect that storage. So we could get involved in helping them with that. The use of aftermarket parts is more nuanced. Aftermarket parts are supposed to meet all safety standards as required by the United States. Now, there are some manufacturers who will argue that they don't. However, within the realm of repair of vehicles, they're supposed to meet all U.S. requirements and be just as good. And that is the argument that insurers use, and they're used as a way to help keep costs down. That's why it's somewhat of a double-edged sword, because I certainly understand somebody wanting OEM parts on their vehicle if it's been damaged. However, if insurers were mandated to provide OEM parts for all repairs, that is going to drive up the overall cost of insurance for everybody. That is an issue that will require some kind of regulatory change.
Understood. And I recall that conversation happening, I think, in 2018. And I don't think it went very far because once you started talking about how expensive that could potentially be, I think folks decided to step back. In 2017, I meant to say. Madam Chair, may I ask a question about bond companies? Thank you. With bail bond companies, I know one of the ongoing conversations that the immigration bar has had in the past, when an individual is charged with a particular crime who also is undocumented. The typical dance is they get that criminal charge, they're arrested, and then they post a criminal bond, they're released, and then soon after or immediately thereafter, they're handed over and placed in ICE custody. So the question is twofold. My understanding is in the state of Nevada, bail bond companies are not helping when it comes to immigration bonds. And I wanted to just talk a little bit about why we've kind of gone in that direction, only to address the issue that it's forcing people to go to out-of-state companies to utilize for purposes of immigration bonds. And the biggest concern and the thing that we see there is that they use companies who very much seem to go unregulated because they're kind of operating in the internet. Although they have a registered business, I often see, I think, Florida, and I think some of them were, I think, Texas. But the issue we've been seeing is they will charge not the 15% or 20, sometimes they will charge the full amount. In other words, if the bond is $10,000, they're expected to pay $10,000. And then on top of that, they charge a fee per month. And then on top of that, they charge a fee because they put their own ankle monitoring device. So the bail bond company does that. So they're sometimes the one family ends up paying 2 or 3 times that bail amount. So I'm just curious to know when things like that are happening, I'm assuming there may be complaints, but they're outside of the realm of Nevada, so it makes it hard for you all to get involved. So that was one of the questions. But the other question that is within Nevada is when that bail bond company is hired for the initial release of the criminal charge. So person one is charged with crime A. They hire a bail bond company to get them released on that crime A, and then immediately they're apprehended and taken into ICE custody. They seem to be having a very difficult time getting their bonds back because now it's become an immigration issue. They may be removed from the U.S. And they're having a hard time navigating the system so that they can get that money back. So I'm just curious to know if you've been seeing anything like that, or have you sent out an alert to those bail bond companies to notify them that they should be alerting families, look, just because you pay this bail bond company to get released on the criminal charge, there still may be an ICE hold on that person.
Thank you for the question. Ned Gaines, Commissioner of Insurance, for the record. I'm going to have to do some more research on this. This is the first I'm hearing of this particular issue. The DOI, when it comes to the bonds, we have jurisdiction over the company that writes the bonds and issues the bond, and then we license bail agents. So when you say the bail company, are you talking about the bail where you go to the bail bond office?
Yes.
Okay.
A private company, Company A, markets itself as a bail bond company.
Okay. He said, I am going to need to do some more research on this. I will be honest, this is one of my areas of weakness. This is something that is unique to Nevada, so I am still learning exactly how the bail bond system works here. But I will get some more information and then we will get back with you. But thank you for bringing the issue to my attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Committee members, any additional questions here in Las Vegas? I don't see any. How about Carson City? Is there any additional questions?
No additional questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with us today and your presentation. And that ends all our presentations for today. Our last agenda item is public comment. Is there anyone here in Las Vegas who wishes to give public comment? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Carson City who wishes to provide public comment? We don't see anyone broadcast. Is there anyone on the line?
The public lines are open and working, but there are no callers to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you. Thank you to all the committee members for being here today, and this concludes our meeting. Meeting's adjourned.